Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for episode 2 of the Day 1 Experience. My second guest is Alex Opri, a wonderful musician, performer, music tutor, and an all-round good egg.
Hello, my name is Alex Opri. I'm a singer-songwriter and pianist, and one day I hope I'm gonna make a real difference in people's life.
The Day 1 Experience.
Hey, so I was actually just curious, what made you come up with that question?
The question of one day or day one, I was asking that of myself, and so my script from the film came about from saying, when I have enough time, when I have enough money, then I'll do this thing, but I'm like, what if that never comes? Tomorrow never comes, and if I don't put a foot forward first, nothing's going to happen. And so you kind of have to make your own luck, in my mind. People say, oh, you've got to be in the right place at the right time. And you say, well, how do I be in the right place at the right time? And people aren't just going to present it to you. Maybe a few people have some stories of how they got lucky. But for the most part, when someone is successful or whatever, it's because they've put a lot of hard work in. And so I thought, if I'm asking that question of myself, I'd love other people to ask it of themselves. And I love finding potential in people and seeing if I can make a change possible for them as well. And happiness and success and progression is so good that when you have got a little bit of that mindset, you just want to share it with everyone and bring everyone with you. And I'm very much of the mind that the tide rises all ships. And if we can all be a little bit more like the tide, then that's not a bad place to be.
Indeed, I couldn't agree more, honestly. So many people live indeed with the saying, one day I'm going to get to do that. Or even for small things like one day I'm going to get to travel to that country where I've never been but I've always dreamt of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why can't it be today that one day? Why? I mean, I understand there can be like financial commitments and other things, but problems and things will always be. So why not try to put that in your one day things that I'm actually going to do rather than dream of it? And as you did say, that it requires so much patience and it requires work and discipline, and it takes a lot to put together everything so you can achieve your dreams.
Yeah, and I'd also say it doesn't have to be like day one that you drop everything and go all in on absolutely everything from every angle. It could be day one of setting up your environment and your mindset to even make this thing possible to manifest. And so a lot of my day ones were I need to have some sort of routine that I can be comfortable enough in my autopilot, in my default setting, that naturally I will progress even if I'm not feeling like it. Sometimes a day one will be, today's day one I start getting out of bed on time, or it's day one that I show up for myself. And it doesn't even have to mean something massive like taking a leap. It could mean day one that I talk to myself a bit kinder. A lot of people could do with that. I certainly could have done. And sometimes still. So yeah, and that's why I think it's such an important question to ask. And also important to ask to just allow people the permission to say, like, this doesn't have to be all there is. Like, there is more if you're willing to look for it. It's like you look but you don't see kind of thing.
Yes, that is very true. I think sometimes one of the pressures that we put on us when we decide to finally do something is that we just want to get it all done in one day. It's like, okay, I haven't done it for so long. I've been waiting for it. Now I've got the courage to do it. But how can I do it all in one day? I just wanted to just click all of it in place. Well, sometimes, now it depends on the goals. I'm just going to go back to the example with traveling. That could be possible. You just do a crazy thing and you just decide, you know what, I'm just going to book a ticket for the afternoon and go for one day to that place I've always dreamt of. But some things, maybe sometimes things regarding your career, or things regarding, I don't know, maybe you want to lose some weight or gain some weight, or maybe you want to, I don't know, start going towards the dream of achieving the dream of your life. It does take, as you said, small steps. Waking up in the morning and, okay, what can I do today? One small thing to take me towards that. And that is the day one. That literally represents the day one. It doesn't have to be a massive change. But would you think that sometimes maybe people don't do it because they're afraid of the change, or on how the change would look like on them, or the people they would become through it?
When you start trying to do right by yourself and improve, you can't unknow certain things. So, and a lot of the problem I find is, and it's a lovely sentiment at the time, when someone goes, "You're good as you are, never change." But I want to give permission, not just to others, but to myself as well, as like, but I could be so much more. I could be. And I think it needs to be said, because there's, in my experience at least, a whole majority more of people saying, "You would never do that," or "I would never do that if I were you." But guess what? They're not you.
Yes.
And it's very easy to say that as an outsider because there's no effect on that person. And another thing for asking the one day or day one question is that if I don't pick something that I want to do now, someone else is probably going to choose for me, and I'm fairly sure I'm not going to like what it is.
Yeah. Sometimes maybe some of the dreams we have, or some of the things we want to do, it's not like they're not achievable, but I do believe sometimes the thing that maybe some things are just not meant to happen, or maybe not in that moment when we want it. So I think it's fine sometimes to say, like, you know what, I need a break. I just can't keep on fighting right now. I just need a break. I'm going to take a step
For
down.
sure.
And maybe by taking down, you either realize that's not something that was meant to be for you, or you really don't want it maybe that much, or it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just not meant to be for you at the time. Or you're just like, oh, you know what, actually I'm stepping back. I'm saying everything I was doing, which was not maybe as great as I thought, and now I can actually go all over again, create a new action plan, and go for it and smash it. Either way, as you say, if you die with the thing of, yes, I've tried it. Whatever happens, I've tried it. And that's probably one of the best feelings, because the regret at some point will eat you in life. Like, I've met so many people who have, let's say, given up on their careers to try something else just because in that moment was just not working. And they're always like, I'm not really like into my job, but it's paying the bills, it's paying fairly well. But I really miss doing that. Or like, really miss singing, or really miss, I don't know, being on the stage, but it's already too late for me. I can't do it anymore. And of course, to be fair, most of the people I know, they're not like over 35, so they still got plenty of time to actually go for these things. But it's that fear of fail that they would rather not do it at all, rather than even give it a try anymore.
Yeah, and nothing's going to progress that way. It's just not. You stay stuck, and then you get deeper into that belief, and from a mental health point of view, if you have that negative worldview and self-view, your body will react to that, and you will kind of buy into it. And even if it's not entirely true, and like your thoughts can make you sick, and your body will react to that. For me, I'm always trying to rebalance and find balance between going for what I want to do and achieve, whilst at the same time minimizing the amount of stress, because too much stress makes everything more dull, and I'm not able to be as productive or focused or whatever. And even if I'm stressed, I'm probably less likely to take a break, because I feel like I need to work through it, and then that's when productivity gets to like a more toxic level of and then you start self-sabotaging, because then you don't sleep properly, and then you don't eat properly, and then if you can't do that and you function badly and relationships break down and stuff, and then it's downhill from there. And you can have a day one, like whenever, even if it's right this second. It could be, I'm gonna call it a night, or I'm gonna stop negatively talking to myself like this right this second.
Yep. What would you give as an advice to people who are afraid of the day one?
Be afraid. Properly afraid. And do it anyway.
And do it anyway.
And if you can't do that, then break that task down into as small a version of that task as possible. And if that's too much, then half it again and half it again. And so if you feel you can't get out of bed one day, then work on just taking the covers off for a second. And if you can't do that, stick your leg out of the damn cover.
The advice I would give for someone who wants to go for their day one is to try to find the positives. And there are always positives. And honestly, if you can't find positives, use ChatGPT. Go and write your problems and ask ChatGPT, can you please give me some ideas of positive sides of these issues? Mm-hmm. And actually inspire you. But there is always a way. Or speak to a friend, or speak to, anyone maybe around you. And you don't have to really tell them the reason for your question. Just tell them hypothetically, if this would happen, what would you do, or how would you do it? And just check what other people might have to say. And they might just give you the best idea, really, to start your day, one.
I often revert and kind of default to, if I can't figure something out, just hold on for a little bit longer. Just that. It's not even like keep going, it's just like, just hold on. I try and remind myself that everything is temporary, good and bad, which means that hopefully you wouldn't take the bad stuff to heart or to such a level, and just like the good stuff, you would appreciate it more because of its temporary nature. And I think that provides a good balance.
Indeed. I couldn't agree more. And you can only learn when you actually make mistakes. I never really thought this for a very long time, but the best and the only way to learn to do things better is by getting them wrong first. Because if you don't fail, you don't learn. And there is that saying that, you should learn from others' mistakes. It might apply to some things, but in most of the cases, you gotta try it, fail it, go through that process of learning, and learning also how to deal with yourself in a situation like that, because not everything in life is about winning, and not everything is going to be just a win. So once you do that, that's when you can say, cool, I've learned what I had to do.
That kind of lends itself to, like, there are no shortcuts. There is just put in the work and find out.
Yep. I couldn't agree more, honestly. I want to impact people's lives in a better way, and mainly for people who, let's say, are feeling lonely or are depressed or having anxiety issue, to know that they're not alone and there is so much more which can be done to help them go through that. That's the one day I'm working on.
Why that exactly?
Not most of the things, but a lot of the things I've done in life and decisions I've taken, they were towards making things happen to me. And I am a giving person, or at least I hope I'm a giving person. I love giving to people around me. And when I say giving, I mean going from gifts to just being helpful, to just being trying to be a good friend, trying to be a good partner, and so on. And I think it's just a need which I can't really explain, of just helping people around me, where I can just maybe see people at a different level and be able to help them in a way that maybe at some point I would have needed it but never had it. So maybe it goes back to something about me, but it's just really this time I just want to help people. it's just a need which I can't explain.
I think instinctively we want to give what we didn't have.
So it could be, again, going back to be about me, but really, I love helping people, and I like being nice. And sometimes I got a few times this question: why are you still nice to certain people? Or why are you so nice in doing certain things? I'm like, why not? Being polite, being respectful, trying to be kind, it's for free. It doesn't cost you anything. So if you can do it, why not?
That's wonderful. Yeah, with such good intentions, I don't see why you wouldn't get there. However someone behaves is reflective on them than whoever it's directed towards. And so for you, you've got a big heart and you want to share it, and you just emit this goodness. If someone's upset or angry, like at you, for example, I would always think, what is going on in their lives that is the energy they're bringing or projecting onto me. And I could be angry at that. If they've said something mean to me or about me or whoever, you would generally feel justified to be pissed off and angry about that and resentful to that person. But instead I try as often as possible to employ more empathy, to say, well, they must not be doing good right now, and I hope they get what they need. Or either that, or they're not even playing the same game of consciousness or awareness. They don't even understand or realise that they're acting this way, and which is difficult for you and I as like empaths to, I guess, understand. That why would you like bring that all the time? Like, why is that your default? I would always consider how my being is going to affect someone else potentially, you know. Obviously you can't account for everything, but even to a certain point of, it's not my job to make people like me, you know. In fact, it's none of my business, because I can be the nicest guy in the world, but there's going to be someone or many people I'm just not going to be their cup of tea. Or, you know, I've had it before and people would be like, you know, why are you so chipper? What are you so positive about? And so even that more positive energy isn't always valued by people, because it would be, oh, it's all right for you. I'm like, that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm trying to just be nice and get along, because really it's a miracle that, you know, like 90% of people are actually pretty decent, because we could be tearing each other's heads off, really.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, sorry, I went on a ramble.
No, that's entirely fine. It's true, the things you said. I agree with it.
To be you and have your mindset and to be able to say that whatever I've got or whatever excess I've got is going to go dedicated towards helping others.
Yeah.
That's very selfless and generous and giving. So it doesn't even mean that we would seek something in return, but by doing the act alone is enough. You become part of something bigger than yourself, and hopefully we can leave the world in a little bit better state than we found it.
You know, I think given the past, the events from the past 2 years, with all the war and the hate that's going around the world, I think I've never, talking about music, I don't think I've ever resonated more with the song Imagine by John Lennon as I'm doing it right now. It's like sometimes I just wish there was no religion, but at the same time, be a big one or none or whatever. Just everyone just stop fighting, just stop calling people by country and color and race, and just live together. For God's sake, we got like what? Some of us at the best between 60s to 80s springs to enjoy, and Christmases with family and everything. It's like, why do you have to spend half of them fighting and arguing and hating and pointing fingers at, look at that color, look at that sexuality, look at that country, look at that? Why do we need to? Yeah, these are things I would like to have the chance as well in the future to work on, and hopefully to break as many barriers as possible, and just be just be there and live life and just enjoy the moments we have, the very few we have, really. I do believe people have to just find the courage and to find that one thing that makes them want to leave it, to go for that day one, because it's worth it.
And you're an example of that, you know, which is why I asked you to have this call, because
Thank
you push me, and hopefully I push you, and to have someone to measure yourself by, you know, I'm not. There's a difference, and there's a very fine line, because I can't remember who said it, but it's like comparison is the thief of joy, and I think that's often true, because you know it's like, oh, they got a new thing, I've got to get this thing as well, and and I've got to equal them, and that's probably the negative version of that. But if it could be, this person is doing this, and I'm inspired and happy for that person, I also want to see what I can do, because they've given me the permission of the mindset to pursue something bigger than myself, even.
Yes, indeed. I think personally for me, I've got a few one days and day ones which I've managed to start, some to finish and some in the process. But probably one of my, if it's okay if I share,
Please,
probably one of
please do.
biggest one day is, I still remember the little child, the 6 years old me, who just got a TV for the first time and would look at movies and would hear people speaking in a language he doesn't understand. And I just remember being like, you know what, one day I'll actually get to speak that language, and one day I'll get to walk on those streets and be there. And at that time, personally in life, I was in a village where there was nothing, no opportunity. There was no way of getting there. Like, you could look left, right, and center and have no clue how to get to where I really wanted. But then the one day came when I was 22, and when I said, you know what, I think I'm ready to go and study in the UK and learn the language and do the thing I've always dreamt of. And I still remember I've applied to university. 1 week later, I got a letter saying that I'm accepted for the interview. I had an interview. 2 days later, I get the approval letter. And then in about 2 weeks, I'm like, all right, so I'm moving to London. That's it. Now I've got to learn the language and move there and start living my life and get one step closer to my dream. So that was literally probably, it took years, given my very young age initially, being just 5-6 years old. It did take time until I got there, but I always kept that in mind and I always wanted it. And now I'm doing it. I'm living the dream. I've managed to move to London. I managed to complete my studies, and I've managed to take myself to another level where I wouldn't probably have been able to do it if I was to stay back home. And it's only because I've taken myself out of the comfort zone and I said, enough is enough. It's time to go for my dreams. And I've done it. And I think probably the closest second example, which I think I finally completed it was with my goal of losing weight. At 120, at the age of 17, I was weighing 125 kilos. And then one day I literally said, it's enough. I'm tired of feeling depressed. I'm tired of looking like this. I want to change. I want to feel better. I want to be able to have more energy to look better, and not for someone else, but for myself. And then in about a year, I lost 45 kilos. And it all started with one evening when I just refused that evening to have pizza anymore. And I said, damn it, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to start eating healthy. And from that day on, I've managed in about a year to lose the 45 kilos. And now that was literally the start for me. And I still remember in that night, I was sitting on the sofa and my parents were having dinner. They're like, there's something weird about you. What's happening? And I think it was probably just inside I was dying to eat that pizza. But I would just try. And you know, like when you go through like a transitional phase where your body sort of expects something, you're not giving it. And it's like, okay, so what's happening? You just feel weird, you know? That was my first night. It was like, I never tried drugs, but I can only imagine that's what happens like when you stop taking drugs. It's like your body just goes mental. Okay, you gotta give me something. You can't just leave me like that, you know? That was me and food, because in the end, food is a drug. You can get attached to it like a drug, and you just eat more sweets and more. That was the first night, literally. And then I remember next day I started to go for a walk. Then I started to do a run. Then I cut on carbs. Then I started eating healthier, doing that. Found some supplements to take. To be fair, the supplements didn't do too much, but it did psychologically. It helped me psychologically maybe to go over certain stages of the hunger and everything. And then I've managed. I lost the 45 kilos. And it all started with one evening, the day one. I'm going to stop eating that pizza. I'm not going to have it.
It's amazing.
And yeah, you just do it. You just got to put your mind to it, and you can do anything you want as long as you're committed to it and you're doing your best.
What makes you committed to it? What makes you follow through despite everything that's when the odds are against you?
There is a part of me personally that always says, if you want it, you got to work for it. You can't have things just to expect to fall from the sky. I remember many years growing up as a kid, the reason I was not actually losing weight, it was because I was having the mentality, well, how can others can eat and not get fat? And I get fat. So maybe one day it will just work. But that was the stubborn me, the teenager who didn't really understand how things work at that time. And when it finally hit me that, you know what, if I don't make a change, if I personally don't take control over it, that thing will never happen and the change will never happen. And I think since then, with everything I've put in my mind, it's like making a promise to someone, but that promise is to myself. If I promise I'm going to do something, even if it takes a day, a month, a year, 10 years, because I do have things which are still in process after 10 years, and I'm still trying to follow through, I'm just not going to give up. I would rather, I know it sounds very dramatic, but I would rather die thinking that I've tried and never got to that point, rather than dying with the regret, what if I would have tried?
Thanks again to Alex for sharing his experiences. It's been really valuable and insightful to hear his stories, as you might agree. If you'd like to get in touch with Alex about his experience as a musician or anything else, you can find all of his links in the description below. Be sure to follow the Spotify link to hear his new releases and follow along in his journey. Share your day one experiences in the comments and be sure to join the community Facebook group where you can find like-minded folk. Thank you again for joining, and I'll see you in the next one in episode 3 of the Day One Experience. The Day One Experience.